Hi, welcome to part 2 of Stories from the Closet. If it's echoing, it's because I'm in my garage. So if you haven't seen the first part, it's in the description box below. I'm going to attempt to finish it in this part because I really don't want to make this longer than it has to be. So now, we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of this relationship. I can't promise that I won't cry. I know it's been a while, but talking about it hurts sometimes. We lasted 5 months together, and like I mentioned, it was a polyamorous relationship. In no way am I trying to bash polyamorous relationships. It's just not for me. I ended up speaking with the aforementioned Riri in June. We got along pretty well. I want to preface that this isn't Riri's fault. I just didn't express things to Sunshine correctly and pretended to be okay with a lot of things when I wasn't. Riri and I were more platonic than anything. Like, we didn't really date each other. We were both dating redacted, but not dating each other. Slip of the tongue. I have to censor that. Oh my god. Hi, editing Asha here. I slipped up a couple times while recording, and if you hear the word redacted, it's because I said their actual name instead of calling them Sunshine. And I just want to preface this by saying, if you do know who they are, because you know me personally, or you're friends with them, or, things like that, don't send it to them, please. Like, I'm not talking bad about them or anything. I'm just explaining my feelings and my experience with the relationship. I kind of don't want to be in contact with them anymore. It's not anything they did. I just feel that it's better if I'm not in contact with them. So don't send them any of my content. Do not send them this video. Do not send them part 1. Thanks. However, things began to go south for me. I couldn't spend time with Sunshine because their mom hated me, and my mom hated them. So it took a toll on me because all I wanted to do was spend time with them, and I couldn't. My mental health got really bad during this time, and I would sometimes talk about it to them a little too much. There are some details that I'm leaving out because I don't want to trigger anyone, and I don't feel it's important. So August rolls around and we're back in school together, but my mental health was still bad because I wanted it to be like a normal couple thing where we went on dates, we hung out, and it wasn't. We're gonna get into why we broke up, and I can't promise that I'm not gonna cry. One day in August, someone had told me that I was just a side piece, that it was Sunshine and Riri and no one else, and I was just kind of there. This really hurt me, and my spiral continued. So I expressed that to them, that I didn't want to feel like a side piece, that somebody had called me a side piece, and I don't understand. Like, is that how they feel about me? Is that how you and Riri feel about me? And that's like what I was doing. And then they said everything was fine, but I guess it wasn't, because the very next day they broke it off with me. Hi, editing Asha back again for this part. I just want to preface this by saying, like, if that's how they thought about me, that's fine. But like, they didn't think that about me. I was just insecure, and I want to make that clear before we move on. Anyway, back to the video. They said we needed to take a break, and if you know anything about being in a relationship, when someone says break for a relationship, it's pretty much over. I was heartbroken. I begged them to stay and to not give up, but they were done with my shit, and that's okay. In the hour that followed, I texted Riri that Sunshine and I were done. They didn't understand why, since Riri had spoken to Sunshine about mental health or how they were doing in particular, but Sunshine never had an issue. And, well, we broke up during school, and I was an emotional 15-year-old. I texted my best friend about it, and she met me on the lower half of campus. I broke down sobbing and saying that it was my fault, because it kind of was. Sunshine ended up walking off, and honestly, fair. I was incredibly upset after this. I became reclusive. I got physically sick. I wasn't talking to people. We were friends, mutual friends. I would not speak with them. And Riri messaged me later that day because they had gone over to redact it. I keep slipping. Sun shines. And they kind of said that I was overdoing it, and that also really hurt me. But that's besides the point. I'm not gonna cry. When I texted Sunshine, I told them it wasn't their fault, and I respected their decision, but I was still hurt, and sort of lied, saying that I was okay when I wasn't. It was difficult for the next month because I wasn't eating. I was getting sick. Because I wasn't eating, I barely spoke to anyone, and I went back to a toxic friend group, but that's a story for another day. We'll discuss that eventually. I was a very, very destroyed mess. made listening to certain songs that I associated Sunshine with hard. I couldn't listen to Vermilion or Another Life without being absolutely destroyed. Another Life was our song, like I said, and it was very difficult for me. Things began to get better in October. I'm not gonna cry, but they were still hurt by my actions from what I know now. They told someone I didn't know at the time that I was a toxic ex, which I'll admit still hurts me to this day because they did not, I don't want to cry. They did not disclose it to me that I was hurting them. They would not tell me if I was. And I would communicate with them, but they would not back to me. So it kind of felt one-sided. And it hurt knowing that I was being talked about like that because nobody had told me until I was walking with one of my friends and they had hung out around Sunshine. And they heard Sunshine talk about it. And this was before they moved out of the state, and that was the breakup was kind of the last time I ever saw them. Now, the real question you may be asking is, did we ever make amends? The answer to that is yes. I work at a theme park in my home state, which I mentioned in the Ghost Stories in my garage, where I'm recording right now. Story time. If you want to watch that too, it's in the little iCard, or I also put it in the description. I ended up seeing them for the first time in about a year at that point, and we had exchanged highs, and later I texted them apologizing for what I did to them and all. It was all forgiven, and we ended on good terms. We are just no longer in contact with one another. And if they somehow are seeing this video, I don't know if they came across it or if someone sent it to them, even though I asked in the first part not for it to be sent to somebody. I want them to know that I do not blame them for anything that they may have said about me that nobody told me about, or what happened. I do not blame them at all. It was my fault, and I acknowledge that. And yeah. So I don't want anyone, if they see this video, or if anyone knows who they are, I don't want anyone bashing them for what I said, because we did end up ending on good terms and making amends with one another. Moral of the story is not to pretend to be okay with something if you aren't, and also to let yourself heal even if it hurts to heal. And if you're not okay with being in a polyamorous relationship, you need to make that clear from the get-go. Because if I had made that clear, we would probably still be talking. This is the end. I am Coda Candy. I finished this in one part. I am very proud of myself for that. Goodbye.